Good morning, everyone. This is Ali Azzuddin for Generation 4 Education. And today, our special day before the end of this year, 2021, is about well-being. We had our morning session with Bron, and we talked about self-care and the well-being for yourself. Now we're live again on Facebook. We're live here on Zoom. Feel free to introduce who you are in the chat. Let us know from where you are watching, and let me welcome Hatem. Hatem, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Ali. How are you? I'm
good. So today, with you in the second webinar, we're going to talk about well-being from a leadership perspective. And let's say good morning to Deepa, who's watching from Mauritius this morning. And let me again invite everyone to introduce who they are in the chat on Facebook or on Zoom. If you have any question, you can send it in the Q&A. Make sure you're putting everyone. And so I can see people watching from Jordan, from China, from Lebanon. This is another session that we are attending. Very good. Tehran, Iran, Mahshid, good morning. And remember, our day is today trilingual. So we will be speaking in French very soon, and then in Arabic. Victoria is watching from Bangkok. So let's give it a start. I can see that we have a nice group of people live on Facebook and here on Zoom. Hatem, would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are?
Thank you, Ali. I'm really excited. And thank you for all the audience who have joined us at different timings throughout the whole world. I'm sure it's a little bit challenging to join through during a weekend. So I hope that it's not a time in vain, and they're going to invest your time and spend it and have good benefit out of it. Myself, my name is Hatem Mahmoud. I am an educational leader in the Middle East. I've started my K-12 career back in Egypt in 2012 throughout the MYP program in a prestigious IB school in Egypt. After 5 years of different experiences working as head of department for language acquisition and then inclusion coordinator for special needs and gifted and talented students, and IB, DP, Spanish ab initio teacher as well. Then I moved on to Saudi Arabia. I arrived in the year 2017 to start implementing the IB program, specifically the MYP program in multiple schools, where I ended up being a school principal for MYP and DP in my current school in Riyadh. And I also work with the IB organization as a workshop leader and a school visitor, a BQC, MYP curriculum reviewer, and online workshops facilitator. And luckily I speak 3 languages, and I understand French as a 4th language, Ali, so don't feel bad.
Good. So, Hatem, I know you prepared for us a very interactive session full of ideas. So what's on the agenda today?
Brilliant. So the agenda is the main scope of today, which is specifically well-being. We're going to shed the light on the 4 quadrants of well-being as per the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People course by Stephen Covey. And then I'm going to shed the light on a top card activity that really underlines and underpins the importance of self-awareness and knowing yourself, kind of like a personality check. And as the majority of our audience from all around the world are teachers, and we are mainly specifically focusing on leadership and its relation with well-being, we would need to see how teachers are also considered as leaders in the classroom. So this is kind of a comparison between a student leader and a teacher leader. And then we're going to wrap up with the conclusion, and hopefully it's going to be an interactive session, because I really like to do workshops rather than presentations or one-sided presentations, but I understand the technicality of this context. So I'm able to see the chat on Zoom, and I'm also able to see the chat on Facebook. So whenever we will have a question or so, I would really like us to jot in our answers in the chat.
Very good. So let's start with the warming up.
Moving on, exactly. And speaking of warming up, I opened the chat now, and I have the chat also open on Facebook. So the first question for everyone, that's a warm-up. Do you think you see yourself as who you really are on a scale from 1 to 5? Please post your numbers.
Oh,
Do you see
so
yourself as
so we're
who
starting
you
with
really
question number 1. On a scale from 1 to 5, do you think you see yourself as you really are? And we're starting with a 2 and another 2. Hopefully, by the end of the session, Hatem, we can move them to a little further. We got a 4, we got a 3. So some people, they are in the safe side in the middle. A few more 4 also coming in the chat. So you have the variety between 2, between 3, and between 4. I'm not seeing people going to the 5 or going to the 1. So this is a little bit. Also, people on Facebook, they mentioned the 4. So this is for question number 1. And I like Jyoti. She just put in the chat question 1, 3. So now, Hatem, shall we move to question 2?
Yeah, before we move to question 2, Ali, which is really also another aspect or another perspective of the question. To be honest with you, whatever your answer is in question 1, whether it is 1 or 3 or 5 or 2 or 4, this is kind of the self-awareness that we are seeking. So if you think that you do not see yourself as who you really are, or if you think that you do see yourself as who you really are, is kind of the self-awareness that we will be speaking about shortly. Question 2, do you think you see others as they really are? So that's a different perspective. It's kind of situational awareness. It's kind of knowing others rather than knowing yourself. So what do you think? Especially, I mean by others, people who are close to you, of course.
Good. So for question number 2, again, you can put Q and then Q2 and then give us the answer. I'm going to check the answers, and then I'm getting some 4 here from Sajida Nurtan. Hello. And then I'm getting a 3.5 from Jyoti. So this is interesting. Safa is saying that some people see me 1 and some 3, depending on who's looking. Victoria also is between 3 and 4. So here we're getting like more subcategories, Hatem. It's always interesting to see how the people interact with these questions and where do they put themselves on a scale. What else we're getting? So on a scale from 1 to 5, do you think you see others as they really are? And then here again, some people in question 1, they mentioned 4, and here they mentioned 3. So they went a little bit back.
Yeah, and actually I like the answer when it says some with some 1 and with others 4, because it really depends on your relationship and your connection, and to what extent do you really know others, which we will shortly as well reflect on in terms of knowing yourself to be able to have self-esteem and to start the well-being journey, or actually continue it if you have already started it, and also knowing others to be a good leader. So this is kind of related to our theme and topic in terms of leadership and well-being. Brilliant. The third question, on a scale from 1 to 5, do you think a good teacher needs to be a good leader? So in order to be a good teacher, do you need to be a good leader?
Oh, interesting. So here we're getting some 5. So do you think a good teacher needs to be a good leader? I'm seeing like many people putting 5 for this question. And then some people jumped back to the previous question saying that some people, they have masks, so it's hard to see them. So we just mentioned this. Okay, so Victoria here is taking another extreme for question number 3 and saying that 2 for a good teacher needs to be a good leader, another 5 And so again, on the scale, Hatem, you're getting different answers, maybe based on the prior knowledge and the different perspectives of the teacher who are watching us and attending this webinar with us live now.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I'm really interested, Victoria Roth, to see your answer after the session, if it's still going to be 2, especially for this question. If a good teacher needs to be a good leader or not. That is brilliant. If we can see if it's changed or not. Okay, so what I would like to highlight now is when we speak about leadership. First of all, what do we think that the definition of leadership is? Like, leadership can be very well understood clearly from the definition, but again, how do you think that leadership is defined from your perspective? If you can just have to jot it down on the chat, while I can share the definition that is, more near to my heart. Of course, there are many definitions for leadership out there. Let's give it a go.
Yes. So how do you define leadership? Put your ideas in that chat here on Zoom or on Facebook. We're keeping an eye on both areas where you are interacting with us. We have a nice group now watching also on Facebook. So being a real role model, this is a perspective number 1 about leadership from Safa. Yes, I totally agree, Safa, that being a role model is important. I'm getting another perspective about empowering people to become who they are. And then again, good listeners, responsible, they have empathy. So these are the different ideas that we are getting in the chat to define the leader or the leadership. So
definitely, brilliant. So empowering people, empowering others, being a role model, giving a good example, being empathetic, being a good listener, being mentor, being a coach, self-reflective. Brilliant. A good leader.
I'm going to lead the tool 1. So good leader create leaders, not followers. Mariam is bringing the word inspiring and inspire others. And then if I look at the people on Facebook, so we can read aloud their ideas. Leadership is a skill in which you can reach the most from leads. The ability to empower and support, the ability to develop and change, ability to help people see their own values, strengths, support them, being empathetic, and then leadership, it's all about empowering others and being good role models. I am getting also the word of motivating. And here again, a quick reminder in the chat, if you choose everyone will be reading your answers. If your chat is sent only to host and panelists, it will be me, the only one reading it. Habiba, good morning, Habiba. She said a leader is who inspires and empowers people to grow together. And you're getting plenty of ideas, Hatem. So let me know if you're ready to share what do you have from your perspective as a leader as well.
Actually, Ali, and I'm really thankful and appreciating the fact that we have all these ideas, which are all in the same scope of what I have to share, to be honest. And this is why I dropped the question asking for the findings from our audiences, because at the end of the day, leadership is mainly entitled to knowing others as much as you know yourself. So it's in the same scope where we speak about the importance of self-awareness and well-being. It's really important for a leader to also be aware of the situation and aware of his or her surroundings. So the definition that is really near to my heart is leadership is the ability to get a person to do what you want him or her to do when you want it done, in a way you want it done, because he or she wants it to be done. So, and this is by Dwight Eisenhower in Galloway, 1990. And this is kind of really the perspective of leadership in terms of empowering and inspiring others not specifically by being a role model, because we are all human beings and we have defects, no one is perfect, but by the fact of inspiring and empowering others, which is actually what many of our audience have already put down in the chat, to do what they want to do in a way that makes it feel that this is what they themselves wanted to do as followers. So this is kind of like the most relevant definition as per se. Okay, so leadership, that's leadership. So what about well-being? I'm just, analyzing the title of this talk before we delve into the picture that we have on the slide in front of us. So what about well-being in terms of definition? What do you think well-being is? And then we can see the relation between leadership and well-being.
Very good. So we're unpacking the title of the workshop with all your ideas. And when we say well-being, what comes to your mind? And feel free to put in the chat here on Zoom or on Facebook your ideas. And it's very interesting, Hatem, because again, well-being, to translate it into Arabic, and this is what we are going to see later in the afternoon with the Arabic session. It wasn't easy to put this word in Arabic. So I'm seeing that safety is coming, flexible is coming, empathetic is coming with connection to the word well-being. So when we say well-being, how do you define it? What comes to your mind? Feel free to put in the chat your ideas.
Yes.
Deepa is referring to Maslow before Bloom as a leader in regarding also to the well-being. Yes. So what else? So the people on Facebook, they usually they start a little bit later because there is a delay between Zoom and Facebook. Okay, so now we have a chat in French. So do you want to give it a try, reading it aloud?
Se sentir sain et serein.
Bravo. So Eliana is saying balanced, so well-being and balanced. Well-being is mental health and psychological health. So good. So these are some of the ideas, Hatem.
Yes, Ali, the challenge in defining something that you presume as very clear, like I would say that in Arabic because we mentioned that I'm trilingual. So ومن المعضلات تفسير الواضحات أو من المشكلات تفسير الواضحات. So it's like really difficult to define something that is very clear. Like define the sun. Like we all see this. So define well-being. It's like being well. Feeling well. Yes, but how? Like why? What kind of So we have all these findings in front of us. It's a sense of emotional stability and fulfillment, belonging, and support system, internal and external. Brilliant. So, in terms of definition of well-being, we can see that it's mainly and basically the feeling of being comfortable and healthy. But is it different than the feeling of happiness? To what extent is well-being different than happiness? Can you sustain well-being while you're not happy? Can you sustain well-being while you are not positive, while you're not having positive approach? Can you sustain well-being while, for example, not feeling good about yourself in some aspects? These questions, I'm not throwing them to collect answers for now, but just for our thought process. And speaking of which, I would really like to shed the light now on the 4 quadrants of well-being, which I adapt or adopt from Stephen Covey. I took this course, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, back in 2007. And ever since, it really made a huge difference in my life. Mainly the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, they are focused on personal victory first in the first 3 habits, and public victory in the second 3 habits. And then the habit that we are focusing on for this few moments in terms of the 4 quadrants of well-being are the 7th habit, or sharpen the saw. So the habits are briefly be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first so you can accomplish private victory and go from dependence to independence. Then the second three habits are think win-win, and you can see here that they are more situational awareness. They are more surrounding. Here there is more leadership taking place. You are not focusing on yourself, you're focusing on others. So think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and then synergize, teamwork, creativity. That's habit 6. Implementing these three habits will help you to achieve and accomplish public victory and move from independence to interdependence and being an effective people on your surroundings. And effective leaders need to be effective people in the first place before they are effective leaders to lead others. So the 7th habit, which is sharpen the saw. Here, Stephen Covey said, sharpen the saw means preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, which is you. So when you know what are your areas of strengths and what are your areas of improvements, this is the habit of renewal. You always need to sharpen the saw. I had a discussion with Ali before we start live, is that, oh, Ali, how can you cope with all these activities that you are doing? And how is it that you are having all these live sessions while still having your visits, while still having your consultancy work? And he answered the exact same answer that I was expecting. Ali, can you share with us your answer, please?
I said, like, I can balance it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
balance means moving on, traveling, having some physical effort, seeing others, socializing, playing sports. It's kind of the balance. And for those of the audience who are familiar to the IB Learner profile, we actually encourage and empower our students, our learners, to be balanced. And this doesn't mean that they only focus on grades, on marks, or whatever. No, life is comprehensive. Life is, it's a holistic approach. So sharpen the saw means, remember the pencil that we used to write with in the past? I'm not sure if some people are still using it. Now everything is digitalized. So when you used to write a lot with the pencil, of course, at a certain moment, the tip of the pencil will fade away and you need to stop writing to be able to sharpen the saw, sharpen the pencil, and move on and continue writing. So it's exactly the same concept here in terms of work, and no balance with, for example, lifestyle, no balance with physical well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being, and social and emotional well-being. So these are the 4 main aspects that, or quadrants, that we are shedding the light on. So according to the paradigm shift, which is something that's really important in this course of the 7 habits, there is a see, do, get cycle. So the see, do, get cycle is what you see, or how you see the world, how you see yourself, how you see your surroundings, which is also self-awareness and and situational awareness and surrounding awareness, will interpret and will influence to a great degree what you do. And accordingly, what you do will define the result that you get. So this is kind of like the see, do, get cycle. And we will see this in a slide shortly. So if I see that I nurture the goose that lays the golden eggs and not only focus on getting the golden eggs, I will have enough time to nurture the goose. And here, of course, metaphorically speaking, this is myself. So I need to take care of myself. I need to have rest. I need to recover. When it comes to, for example, sports, I cannot always be running. I need to come back home and recover for a couple of days and then continue running again, for example, or whatever the sport is. So renew regularly in the 4 dimensions. These are the 4 dimensions, and this, I always love Venn diagrams to create this similarity and create this focus in terms of the intersection. So the intersection of the 4 quadrants of a human being, honestly, like what are we other than our physical aspects, our social and emotional aspects, our mental and spiritual aspects. So These are the questions that we have laid in the synopsis when we shared with you guys, and accordingly, that's why you are here with us. So let's start listening to your ideas in terms of answering to each and one from these 4 questions that we jotted down that are related to the 4 quadrants. So the first one, assume you've had a heart attack, God forbid, in the last month. But this is really, really becoming very common. So take care of yourselves, please. How would you approach exercise and nutrition? So this is kind of like the physical quadrant, your physical well-being, regardless of being a leader now, being a human being. So please, let's see your answer.
Let's check if our attendees today here on Zoom or on Facebook, they eat healthy or no. So in the chat, can you answer this this new question? And so according to Maryam, I will follow my doctor advices. And so here it's a kind of a more someone is telling us what do we need to do. I will keep this as a priority, so I will focus on this maybe more and then reflect on it. I will follow my passion for Safa, so who knows? Yes. I will find time for my walk. Jyoti, yes, okay. I will exercise in my head. I will visualize, okay? So different ways of approaching the scenario and the problem that you are giving us, Hatem. And I think this is a very interesting question because, again, this will allow to reset your priority, reorganize your priority. I will read about this. I will know how to avoid it in the future. Yes, maybe change my diet. Yes, set my priority, take more of my health, physical one and mental one. So people on Facebook, what do you have regarding this question? I will make sure to increase my walking hours. I will check my food, what type I'm eating, avoid the unhealthy things. So this is from Iman. And yeah, what is rich, what is interesting, Hatem, that each one is looking at this question from a different perspective, and so that's why the answers that we are getting are also different. So go ahead, Hatem.
Definitely. And this is the point, Ali. This is the main point here in terms of visualizing. If this happens, what would I do? And let me code the answer. I will increase my walking hours. Okay, so this did not happen yet. So now is the time to increase our working hours. Our walking, not working. Our walking hours. So definitely, we still have the time to avoid this and avoid it from happening. We also have an answer on Facebook from Habiba. Simply, I will adapt to my new situation and replace the daily exercise with a mindful session or meditation. We will speak about that, but the main focus of this question was about the physical aspects of your life. To what extent do you actually focus on moving your body? Our bodies were created for movement. They are not created for stagnancy. And this is why, coming back from COVID, many of us have endured and have mainly maybe survived post-traumatic syndromes. It's different from children, from teenagers, from adults. Our reactions to such kind of lockdown or desocializing, it's very different, and there are very different perspectives coming from this. Yet still, people who were not able to socialize, they were still able to work out, and we have seen lots of videos on YouTube or for example, social media on how to exercise at home, how you don't need, for example, to go to the gym to exercise, or you don't need to. So if there is a will, there is a way. The fact is that we need to take care of our physical aspect or the quality. When it comes to social and emotional, I'm conscious of the time, so let's
we still have approximately like 20 minutes, Hatem.
Brilliant. Assume that everything you say about people will be heard by them. How might you choose your words differently? So when it comes to social and emotional well-being, when it comes to awareness of what people like or dislike, and changing my way of treating people and communicating with people according to their needs or wants. To what extent do I do that? And let's just call this the EQ, the emotional intelligence part. So the question is, how might you choose your words differently if you feel and know that people that you're speaking about hear you?
Okay,
I'll
so
prefer it.
I like Iman answer. I prefer not to talk too much, so being silent. What else? Yeah, it's again, these questions are very thought provocative, and we, we, we,
On
we,
Facebook, we have
we yes, we need to be careful with our words. And we all know that once a word is said, if it's a positive one or a negative one, you cannot pull it back. Like there is no delete once it's out.
yes,
I will
yes.
pay attention not to hurt anyone with my words. I will know more about the person before I start the discussion. All depends also on how the other is open-minded. And so it's also about the other
Right,
taking into consideration this, be gentle when
right.
speaking and probably more quiet. Yeah, I'm loving these answers that we are getting from the chat. I will think more before
Yeah,
talking. I will be
brilliant.
selective.
Yeah, simply think before talking. Simply. Thank you, Mariam. I mean, and as you mentioned, Ali, in terms of how to focus on this in terms of your own relationship with people, it's kind of like the effect that we have on emotions is really devastating. But the issue is that we don't see it. It's not
Mm,
visible. So a word that goes out is like a bullet from the gun. You can never put it back. You can just deal with the aftermath of it. You can deal with the effect of it and the influence of it, whether it's positive or negative. Brilliant. Following question: when it comes to mental, and I believe our main focus is always on mental well-being, and is always on, hopefully, and also on the of knowledge that we have, and the professional aspects of our life and our professional development, reading books and so on and so forth. So we might be only maybe focusing on this quadrant other than or more than the other four. So assume your knowledge and skills will be obsolete in 2 years. All that you know in life will be in vain, will not be important, will not be beneficial anymore in 2 years. What new learning avenues would you explore? Being an inquirer, for those of us who are familiar with the IB Learner profile as well.
A very interesting new question. So again, in the chat, assume your knowledge and skills will be obsolete in 2 years. What new learning avenues would you explore? And I think this happened maybe in 2020 when we felt that we need to sit at home and we need to be teachers teaching online, training online. And so we felt that we are starting from scratch and developing our skills. So learn more about technology, learn more languages, develop critical and creative problems so I can solve this new situation, deal with the change wisely. And we mentioned this, Hatem, in the previous session, that a change is really the key word. And so how do we deal with that change in our day-to-day life? Again, the idea of learning more languages is coming in the chat. I will
Definitely.
be more flexible, open-minded to adapt to the new situation. This is from Dana on Facebook. And yeah, yes. So it's really about, I would say, being a lifelong learner, Hatem, because once you know that learning is ongoing and it's a process, you will not reach a point where you are at zero or you lost everything you know, right?
Definitely. I totally agree, Ali. It's about not reaching the satisfaction level ever with knowledge. As much as I mean, I really love a quote that I always use: who dares to teach must never cease to learn. So we are teachers, we are educators, so we should be a role model in terms of always learning new aspects and learning new knowledge and concepts and facts. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So this is how we take care of your mental well-being. Last but not least, and again, it's not least, spiritual well-being. And of course, it depends on the spirituality and the definition of spirituality for each and every one of us. So it's also diverse as much as we are a diverse group now in this session. So assume you have 1 year to live. What legacy would you want to leave? What is it that really matters the most in terms of the influence, impact that you need to leave on Earth before you leave Earth?
Oof, a very powerful question for the morning, especially for our people who are just waking up. But again, it's life, and so death and life are connected. And when we are thinking about these questions, we can find our passion, and we can follow our passion. So Mahshid is saying, how many lives can I touch or change? This is the legacy that I'm thinking about. You can also think about how you can keep your or you can transfer the knowledge or the skills that you gained, and you want to spread it and to keep it alive. So I'm getting never harming people. I'm getting being good person, so people can remember me in a positive way, the good manners. The people that I knew and I learned from, those comes to my mind. My relationships. So yeah, a lot of deep questions, like the good reputation, spreading the knowledge, the peace, and these are the ideas that our attendees are mentioning in the chat. I had a similar exercise about, like, you have 1 hour to live. What are you going to do in this 1 hour?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That, well, at least I'm giving 1 year, Ali.
Yes.
Yours is more difficult.
Again, from a spiritual perspective, I will try to build a mosque or any religious place so people, they can go and pray. This is also a beautiful connection.
Yes, yes. Well, the fact is, whether it's a year, a moment, an hour, or a day, it's that you really focus on what really matters more. And maybe that's why I said last but not least, spirituality is really what matters most, because we might really focus on physical, on the mental aspects, because we know if there is a defect in any of which, it's really appearing on the spot, so we can deal with it. But when it comes to spirituality, if you don't focus on your spiritual aspect of, or the quadrant of your personality or your character, by time you will feel dry, you will feel not related and not really meaningful in your life. So this is why we focus on it by, you know, throwing this kind of question in terms of, okay, if you feel that your life will just end, what is it that you really want to focus on, and start focusing on it from now. And I really love the fact that this was this question was put by Stephen Covey, because he mentioned that when he actually created his course of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he read in the 3 main religions. He read in Islam, he read in Christianity, he read in Judaism. So he actually came up with this aspect in terms of spirituality, which is really important aspect of life. Okay, moving forward. Now we understand, or not now, but I mean, now we can introduce the fact that the importance of knowing yourself and the importance of checking your personality and character. So I would like to share with you this Lynn Lott, and Lynn Lott discipline and positive, very famous in schools. That is positive psychology concepts in terms of emotions rather than punishments, and leadership in terms of care. So this website, I really hope that you can maybe Ali can put it on the chat, that you can, yeah, thank you so much. Ali did put it on the chat without saying. So in terms of the four aspects of personality, because we might not have enough time, if this would have been a workshop, we would but go into the website and explore the of team and see will in and the idea
Mm.
in
Are you able
if
to
you
hear Hatem properly? Just let me know in the chat. I'm not sure if I have a problem. So Hatem, you're facing a technical problem.
hello.
Yes, can you check your internet connection, Hatem? Yeah, okay, so the voice is breaking, maybe an internet problem. Yeah, so you see we lost Hatem, but it's not a problem. While we're waiting for him, he recommended if you can check this website, and the website is about Hatem is back, so he's connecting his mic. So these small technical problems. Yes, Hatem. So you need to unmute.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back.
You're back.
So let me share the screen.
Yes, you were talking about Lynn Lotek, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about this resource, what we can find. I put the website in the chat, and then we can move up, and then we still have approximately 10 minutes, Hatem.
Brilliant. We will finish before time, hopefully, inshallah, as per schedule. Thank you, Ali, and sorry for this technical glitch. So again, when we're speaking about this resource, that it's really an effective activity and learning engagement to engage with your self-awareness journey. And it's kind of like a personality check. The main question is, what is it that you avoid more in life? So you can check and use and choose only one quadrant from these four quadrants. So whether it's stress and pain, what is the situation that you avoid the most in your life? If it's stress and pain, or is it criticism and ridicule? It's like you can't really live with criticism and ridicule, or rejection and hassles. You don't like ever feeling rejected by your teammates or your surroundings. Or is it meaningless and unimportant? Like you really need to feel important in a place. You really need to feel significant in a place. Otherwise, you will leave that place. And then when you choose your pick, you will drop down. There is a drop down menu that will actually lead you to lots of information in terms of what are the, or in which situations this is mostly visible in your character, and you will try to reflect on your own day-to-day practices. When you aren't stressed, what is it that you do? And when you are stressed, what is it that you do and appears from your personality? What you need from others when you're stressed, and what you need to work on, and what you long for. What is it that you actually see important for you in long term? So this is really an effective activity. I did it with all my teachers in my previous schools, and I always saw smiling faces because we had to group teachers together in these four groups, and they end up really being the alikes, you know, the job alike group. It's like, no, this is the personality alike group. And it's really a nice activity to do. So I hope that you can benefit from it as well, to explore your different aspects of personality and how to move on and move forward. Because relating this to leadership, I mean, it's really a key component in leadership to know yourself and know your surroundings, as much as it is in teaching. To be able to teach your students better, you need to know your students. So to be able to lead your colleagues better as a leader, you need to know your colleagues. And this actually moves us forward towards the leadership component. So we were speaking more about the well-being component and the four aspects of well-being. So now let's move on to the leadership component. And I think I'm facing a little bit lag in the presentation. I'm not sure why it's taking time to load. But what I wanted to share with you, okay, now, so we have it. What I wanted to share with you is this comparison that I made in terms of, to answer the question that I put in the beginning of the session or of the talk, about whether you feel that a teacher needs to be a good leader or not. So this is kind of like a comparison between the leadership components that a school leader has or should have, and the leadership components and characteristics and and profile that a teacher should have in class. So I would spare you my boring voice and I would leave the slide in front of you for just 30 seconds, and please read through it. And if there is something that clicks in this comparison, there are 3 slides that I will be sharing with you. This is the first slide. Please jot it down on the chat box so we can discuss it together briefly.
Okay, so a moment to read and then to put some reflection in the chat.
And if we actually look at it from a bird's eye view, you can check and see how all these aspects and components are mainly focused on relationship with others. So in terms of getting to know yourself better, you are done with this level. The next level for a leader is getting to know others better. So as I always say, for you to get to know others better, you need to first start with yourselves. Start with the person you look at every day in the mirror. So this gives more priority, this gives more well-being, and you can't pour from an empty cup, especially when it comes to well-being. You need to take care of yourself first so that you're able to take care of others. I remember the main concept and the main fundamental aspect in emergency first response, for example, if you're all aware of it, because it's like a must training for all educators in schools. You cannot intervene to save a person in an emergency if this will affect your own health and your own situation. So priority number 1 is yourself and your well-being, and then the well-being of others. So as a teacher, you understand student group work dynamics, but as a leader, you need to understand teachers' teamwork dynamics, and so on and so forth. Next slide.
You can see some ideas. We've already had them in the chat and people mentioned them.
And here I would like to connect, or to actually highlight, the connection before correction aspect. In terms of leadership and well-being, it's kind of like a mental effort, honestly, Ali, and all our audience. It's a mental effort to try to understand others. It's a mental effort to try to connect with others. It is the easiest way ever to just, as a leader, drop your instructions and email them, and that's it. You can just say that I did tell you. Why are you not following up? Why is the problem? What's going on? But taking this extra mile in terms of connecting with people before correcting them, whether these people are your workmates as a leader or your students as a teacher. Last slide. And this is really related to what are the common traits of great managers? So when we speak about leadership and management, you see this is kind of like a survey that was done back in 2018. And the highest trait was have strong work ethics, and then is honest, sense of humor, confident, positive attitude, make good decisions, recognize me when I do good work, passionate about his work or her work. So how many of these first 10 traits, for example, are related to self-awareness and awareness with the surroundings and awareness about the people that are working with us? So it's really kind of a mental effort. And that's why my advice to all leaders out there, again, take care of your emotional bank account, not only your financial bank account. It is really important that you take care of yourself so that you're able to take care of others, take care of your well-being so that you are able to monitor others' well-being. And in the conclusion and the wrap-up, this is the paradigm that Stephen Covey always has or had in his training. It's the see, do, get cycle. So what you see affects what you do, affects what you get, as we mentioned. So this is kind of like the mental creation that precedes the physical creation. And here I would like to relate to the Pygmalion effect, which or the self-fulfilling prophecy. We know that sometimes we use this from the positive point of view in terms of making students or making our children believe that they can do what they see themselves doing. So the vision that we offer our children shape their future. How we speak to our, not only children as parents, but how we speak to our colleagues as leaders shape their culture. So what is it that the hidden messages, what are the hidden messages that I am giving? What really matters is the self-fulfilling prophecy. Is it being fulfilled or not? Because this is how you need to know your colleagues so that you're able to lead them towards the self-fulfilling prophecies. How will you be able to lead them if you don't know their SMART goals, for example? If you don't know what they want to do, if you don't know the aspects of professional development that they need, for example. So raising the standards are not only enough, but it really, it's not a matter of assumption, but it's a matter of getting to know others and avoiding false beliefs, because this is another effect. Not Pygmalion, it's the golem effect. Then if you actually work on false beliefs coming through over time. So this is really an important psychological aspect that I wanted to share with you by the end of the session. And the last slide for today to wrap up, just to recap what we have been mentioning, is mainly focus on self-awareness, know yourself, know your personality, know what you need to work on, know the dimensions of well-being that you have, whether physical, emotional, financial, social, occupational, spiritual, intellectual, environmental, all the dimensions of well-being, and work on them. Don't feel overwhelmed, but one step at a time. Then work on your social awareness if you really want to be an effective leader, and the situational awareness. So the IQ, which is your own, intelligence quotient, and the EQ, which is the emotional intelligence quotient, and the AQ, which is the trend now, adaptability quotient. So to what extent are you adaptable to change, which we are all living, as Ali mentioned, coming back from a pandemic, moving to virtual life, back to the new normal, and all of these new trends that we are living are key elements towards effective leadership based primarily on self-care. Thank you.
Good, Hatem. So thank you very much for this webinar, these beautiful ideas and question. This is your link for all the people who would like to be in touch with you, right? You can put it in the chat. And now what I'm going to share my screen, Hatem, and I'm going to let our participants know what do we still have for today. So we still have 4 webinars. If you are a French speaker, the French webinar will start in a few minutes. We will be talking about emotional intelligence and how it helps students inside the classroom. After the break, break, we will be going back to English, and we will be talking about how to avoid burnout and transform your energy with very hands-on strategies and ideas from a positive discipline perspective. And Hatem also was mentioning the importance of positive discipline. And then we will wrap up the day with two sessions with two educators, one in Lebanon, one in Egypt, and they will be telling us about the well-being in Arabic with also exercises that you can implement and you can integrate in your daily schedule. So I'm reading here a kind of thank you very much for this wonderful workshop, which made me think about important thing that we often overlook due to the daily routine. I'm very happy to hear all these positive feedback from Deepa, from Nurtan, and from everyone. I wanted to wrap up 2021 with positive energy, talking about well-being, and hopefully you will have an excellent break, excellent holiday. If your holiday started, remember also to check your, let's say, goals. Did you achieve them? What are your new goals for 2022? Hatem, it was a great collaboration again, and hopefully we will continue this collaboration. It's always nice to work with you. Any final word from your side?
Always a pleasure, Ali, and I really appreciate the comments and the feedback, and looking forward to next collaboration. Thank you, sir.
Okay, a big takeaway, connection before correction. That session was recorded. It will be available on YouTube maximum by tomorrow for all the people who would like to see it, rewatch it, or maybe share it with other educators on the social media. Bye-bye.